This is episode 309 of the Super League Pod, and after last week's show where everything had happened, this week not much has happened. Tom Andrews didn't even give us a news review. But there's renewed hope for the World Cup, some changes in France, and your fan views on the 4 Super League games, plus the small matter of guessing what might happen at Wembley. So strap in, it's SLP time. Hello listeners, welcome along to episode 309 of the Super League Pod. This week you have myself, Mark, and the only person left in Hull that hasn't got COVID, Sarah.
Hi.
How are you doing? It's a real shame that you're on with no Hull action to talk about, either in review or preview, unfortunately.
I know, it's crazy. It feels like a long time ago since I last saw a match. Well, a whole match anyway. Yeah,
and even longer for the folk on the other side of the city. I think it just seems like forever.
Yeah.
So no Hull derby to chew the bants over, but we've got plenty of other stuff to discuss. Do you want to start off things though by telling everyone about our wonderful sponsor?
Yep. So our episode is again sponsored by Rob's Toy Shop, and you can find a wide range of toys, gifts, rugby league, birthday cards, and more at Rob's Toy Shop on eBay. You can visit stores.ebay.co.uk/Rob's Toy Shop, and on any orders over £5, you earn 5% cash back, and 1% of your order value will go to the SLP coffers if you put SLP discount at the checkout.
Great stuff. Thanks, Rob's Toy Shop, for their continued support. So coming up then, we've got a little bit of positive news that we're going to get to, as well as some other bits and pieces of news. A few matches, most of them survived last week in terms of 4 out of the 6, so we've got those to go through as well, plus results from around the rest of the world of rugby league, and of course it's effectively our Challenge Cup final preview show in a way here. So we've got the Challenge Cup final that we'll be making our guesses for. We've got the results of the poll that we've been running leading up to the show about how that game's going to go. So yeah, all that to talk about. Before we get into this week's news, we're just going to do a bit of feedback, I guess, on the main news story that broke last week, which kind of was formally announced pretty much as me and David sat down to record, and that was the George Williams signing at Warrington news. So we hadn't been able to give the Warrington fans the opportunity to share their views on that news, and we do have a few Warrington fans getting in touch at the moment because I'm sure they think it's their year, so they're all listening. But no, so it's great to get their views and we want to share them. So do you want to start with the first one of the Warrington fan views on that George Williams news?
Yeah, so Lee Whitnell got in touch and said, chuffed to bits to get him, especially with the possibility of playing with Widdop next year if the rumours are true. He doesn't look right in a wire shirt. I'll agree with you there, Lee. But that will change. I heard a lot of Wigan fans saying he was shit when they had him, so hopefully he'll enjoy playing where he's appreciated. I think is that a winky face? It looks like a little alien on my screen.
Yeah, it's a winky face from Lee there. EFC78JU said, after all these days of waiting for the announcement and releasing Greg and letting Jake Mamo leave for Castleford, and we finally have got it to happen, announced on Thursday afternoon, George Williams in a wire shirt and official. I can't wait to see what he brings to the club.
Yeah. And Karsten, who isn't a Warrington fan but got in touch and said, isn't Wigan a big club anymore, or does the Wire have a better cap management?
We'll answer that one after we've done Neil. So Neil Ormston says, so George's first contribution for the Wire is to help ensure we cancel a game due to COVID for the first time, having had to send all our reserves out on loan to get him under the cap. Am I the only one concerned this is a sly Wigan ploy to send a double agent to infiltrate us? So maybe that answers the cap management situation, in that Warrington have kind of pulled out all the stops to fit him under the cap this year, and next year it's because I can only assume Blake Austin won't be at the club next year is my best guess. I don't know about what you think, Sarah.
Yeah, I mean, I've got no idea. I'm never quite sure how some clubs manage to do certain bits of business. Yeah, I guess maybe if they've managed to shift Greg Inglis onto a different paying roster, then maybe that'll help as well.
It's a volunteer, Sarah.
Okay, onto a different
Load
roster.
of bollocks.
Maybe, a volunteer with his meals and his rent being paid for or something. However they've done it, I think it's a very good bit of business for them.
There's certainly some excitement there, isn't there, in what's coming through. I think to answer Carsten, I don't necessarily know that it's that Warrington have better cap management. It's just that they were obviously more enticing to George Williams. The Wigan club are still going with the same story that George is saying about how he didn't want to just come back and have the same, say he wanted new challenges. All the stuff he said about wanting to be in the challenge of being in that first Warrington team to maybe win the Super League is a big challenge. Whereas other than the Challenge Cup, where he fell short for Wigan, he did win all the big trophies at Wigan, including the World Club Challenge, and I can't see Warrington winning one of them soon. I mean, they've had enough. I mean, if it takes this many tries to win the Super League, how many tries is it going to take to win the World Club Challenge?
Yeah, and actually, I'd say fair play to Wigan. I think that they've handled it really, they've come out looking like definite good guys in it all, haven't they?
To everyone but the Wigan fans, I think they've come out looking like good guys in it. Yeah, I think the Wigan fans, there's a bit.
Maybe as a Wigan fan, you'd be a little bit hacked off about it.
Yeah, there's disillusionment there, but I know for a fact that it hurts Chris Radlinski as much as it hurts me as a Wigan fan that George Williams has turned his back on our club when he's come back to the country. But it might not be forever. He might realise the error of his ways and all that sort of stuff.
And maybe he is a double agent.
I can only hope. I think he's coming back maybe a slightly more rounded player after his time, his year and a bit in the NRL. I don't know if I think whenever Wigan fans criticised George Williams, I always felt a bit sorry for George Williams. We were kind of expecting him to already be the finished article because he was kind of paid like he was because he was our best player. So regardless of the fact that he wasn't the best player in the competition or the best player in the world, he was Wigan's best player for a lot of the last 3 seasons he was at Wigan. Him and John Bateman, I suppose you could say. Alongside, there were so many games where he'd do something that would turn the game or win the game. He had a masterclass of a performance in that 2017 World Club Challenge, like I've spoke about before, and he's learned a bit more about playing both sides of the pitch, a bit more about playing the more of the organiser role, the more of the speaker role, the 7 role more than just the 6 role. So I think Warrington fans should be excited, and let's hope for as a Wigan fans that we're going to get a different announcement soon that might be just as exciting, but we'll see about that.
Are you not holding your breath?
I'm expecting some announcements soon from Wigan, but I don't think any of them would make me as happy as George Williams coming back would have made me. But there you go. I would say good luck to him, but I wouldn't mean it. But I hope that the Warrington fans get to enjoy him playing and losing to Wigan.
Matches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And hey, whichever way around it goes, the best thing is that he should be playing potentially this season now, and that will only bode well for England's World Cup squad. And we'll probably start on the World Cup when we move now over to news. Okay, certainly a thinner news week than the week and a half that me and David had to talk about last week, but we're going to start with a news story that came through today. The Rugby League World Cup will take place as scheduled in England this autumn after participation agreements were signed by competing nations. Organisers have been working with the government and authorities to stage the event in October and November. BBC Sport understands that a formal announcement will be made on Thursday. There were issues regarding COVID regulations and quarantine rules for players and staff travelling back to Australia and New Zealand. COVID regulations mean Australia's borders are currently closed, so anyone returning has to spend 14 days in government-managed quarantine. Rugby League officials estimated around 400 to 500 players, staff and team officials from Australia's National Rugby League competition representing several different countries at the World Cup would have to quarantine on their return to the country after the tournament. But it seems like there's been some sort of resolution there now, and the tournament will be going ahead this year, which is a good news story, all told, I think, Sarah?
Yeah, I have to say it's not the story I was expecting, but I'm really pleased about it, quite excited. I think people were already talking about, well, let's just, we know that the World Cup's not happening, so we'll be able to catch up on postponed matches, have the season running later and all the rest of it. And it feels to me a little bit out of nowhere and a little bit sort of against the narrative that was going around that that it's actually happening. So I think that's really exciting and really positive.
Yeah, definitely. And it's up to us now as rugby league fans to support this. That it seems like we've had government support potentially on both sides of the world in getting to some stage where this is going to happen. Certainly, the governing bodies have put everything into this that they can. Whether or not the NRL clubs and the NRL players will do likewise is kind of yet to be seen. But if that means a marginally weaker Australia, then I think it might mean a marginally more exciting competition.
Yeah. No, as I say, I wasn't expecting that news. I thought it was definitely going to be the other way. So, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing some matches.
There are still question marks because right now I think Australia are playing a cricket tour in West Indies where a lot of the star players haven't gone, for example, and a lot of Australian players have pulled out of some of the cricket tournaments over in England this summer. But that's all very much now. It doesn't seem like the vaccine rollout in Australia is going quite as well as it is in this country, for example. But that said, our COVID problem is still much bigger than theirs, and that they're attacking it a different way. Hopefully, in 3 months' time, there'll be, more progress towards that. I've seen that a lot of the Leeds players went out and got vaccinated after in the weekend after their game on Friday, which a part of a push in that area of the country to up vaccination rates. I think. I'll tell you what, some of these players that are coming over, if they get knocked out of the World Cup, they might want to go and get themselves some vaccines because it seems like we've got more going around than they have in Australia at the moment.
Yeah. And I think that's the other thing to remember is, we are still talking, 3 months down the line, aren't we? And things are changing so rapidly. So hopefully, things will be a bit more positive by then.
Or negative.
Yeah, yeah.
But ultimately, you would hope that we as a country have learnt to, as a society, have learnt to live with it a bit better by then if we can all demonstrate what the government hopes we demonstrate over the loosening up of the rules and regulations. Whether I'm optimistic that will happen, I'm not sure. But one way or another, we'll have a pretty good level of immunity. What's the word I'm looking for? Of
herd immunity.
Yeah, of immunity against the disease by October in this country, one way or another, Sarah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, as sad as one of those ways that could be. Right, sort of sticking with COVID-ish. Do you want to tell us what's been going on in over here around COVID protocols?
Yeah, so Super League clubs have been warned by the game's governing body they could face a potential points deduction if they call off matches in an attempt to gain an unfair advantage. 2 of Sunday's 4 fixtures were postponed under COVID protocols. A total of 12 games have been postponed for similar reasons this season. Karen Morehouse, the Rugby Football League's chief regulatory officer, said there would be significant sanctions if clubs were exploiting the situation. Talking at a media briefing on Sunday, she said, "Clearly not fulfilling a match is a breach of the operational rules. If there was any suggestion that they had done